Welcome to the Los Angeles County Office of Education webinar series part 2, an innovative approach to mobile services for young children. Next slide, please. I am Sandra Williams, Head Start Program Manager, Interdisciplinary Services at the Head Start and Early Learning Division, Los Angeles County Office of Education, and I will be one of your trainers today. In our first webinar, held on June 23rd, our Assistant Director, Luis Bautista, and our Controller and other staff from LACOE provided vital information on the planning aspects of development, procurement, and sustainability of a comprehensive countywide mobile services program. If you were not able to access this webinar, it is now available through the Region 9 HSA website. In this session, we will review how we plan for service delivery, implementation, and success of mobile services unit. We are also pleased to share our work around reserving, tracking, and documenting services. Last, we will provide simulations on how the mobile services staff provides specific services to children and their families. Next slide, please. I'm also pleased to introduce today's other presenters. First, we have Shirley Au, our Program Results Specialist, Debbie Anderson, a Head Start Program Manager for Community Outreach, Shirley Murray, an Education and Child Development Consultant, and Maureen Kemp, our Health Consultant. In webinar 1, we described the rationale for developing mobile services based on the results of our community assessment and analyses of other community information, as well as the procurement process for selecting and securing the mobile units. Remember, we have 2 units, Hope the Bus, which serves a larger community where we engage in outreach, recruitment, and delivery of Head Start and Early Head Start program activities, including but not limited to socializations, conducting screenings and assessments, serving as a training site for parents, etc. Hope on Wheels is our second RV that does much of the same thing, but the focus is on children with disabilities birth to 5 and their families. Today, we will focus on learning about service design and delivery, specifically Objective 3, through discussion, video clips, and simulations of services for children birth to 5 and their families. But before we get to that, we need to talk about our work to ensure effective tracking and documenting of proposed services. We developed comprehensive systems and databases to this end. I'm now going to turn it over to Shirley Au. Next slide, Shirley.
As Dr. Williams mentioned, we will be discussing the comprehensive systems and databases we developed to track and assess service delivery. Before the mobile units are ready for service delivery, there are important logistical aspects that must be considered, such as how would the units be reserved and how will service delivery be tracked. The first logistical aspect to consider is the reservation process. With the reservation process, the first step is to create a reservation form. This will be filled out by the requester and will include all necessary information, such as contact information for the requester and individuals who will be at the event location, type of event, which will determine what type of materials are needed on the unit. In addition to the form, it's also important to add information regarding the unit's clearance and parking requirements to ensure that it's safe to park the unit at the desired location. In addition to having the forms, it is best practice to also have a reservation approval protocol for when the reservations are received. The protocol should include which email the form should be sent to, who is responsible for checking the emails, and starting the approval process, who needs to approve, who will confirm with the requester, In times of COVID and working remotely or in a hybrid settings, the approval process should include e-signature, especially if the approval process requires approval from multiple people. Next slide, please. So now that the reservation logistics have been reviewed, we're going to go over tracking service delivery. One of the methods that we use at LACOE to track service delivery is through participant tracking. The participant log that you see on the screen is used during events to track how many families and children visit the units, and it also helps us assess unit usage and who was served. Next slide, please. So another way that we track service delivery is through closure forms. Closure forms are completed at the end of the event by the requester or the designated individuals from the requester's agency. The form includes statements such as the unit arrived at the designated location 1 hour prior to the scheduled event or at an agreeable time. The preparation and staging of the event, specified materials and areas were completed. This form ensures the units was delivered in a timely manner and fully stocked. On the day of the reservation, if the event was unable to occur, this form also includes a section specific as to why an event was not able to occur, such as the staff did not arrive as planned or the parking space did not meet space requirements. Next slide, please. Now that the forms are in place, we need a system to track and document the request and delivery of service. It is important to establish a protocol for tracking and documentation. The protocol should include information as to what needs to be done, by when, and by whom. It's best practice to ensure that the tracking documentation and databases are accessible to all necessary personnel. This includes the unit driver, director, coordinators, and any outreach individual that will be using the unit or viewing the database. It's recommended to have copies of the form and the tracking database in the cloud or a server that can be accessed by individuals that are working remotely. Next, please. So what you see on the screen is an example of a tracking database. The database is viewed as a one-stop shop for all information. It includes information from the reservation form, which will be entered after the reservation has been approved and confirmed. And it also includes information from the participant log and the closure form that will be collected by the driver. And a digital copy of these forms should be kept in the cloud or on the server. Information from the form will be logged into the tracking database, and the event will be indicated as complete. So by having all information in one database, it makes it easier to pull unnecessary information for reporting purposes. For example, if I needed information regarding how many families and children were served by the unit, instead of looking at all individual forms, what one can do is open the database and all the information from the forms will be located in the database. Furthermore, to ensure that the process is carried out smoothly, it is necessary to provide data entry training to all staff that will be using the database. This would include individuals that are entering the data and also individuals that will be viewing the data. With that, I will conclude the logistical aspects of the unit, and I would like to invite Shirley Murray to provide information on the grantee instructional memos. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Shirley. I'd like to take a moment to share with you all that LACOE's Head Start and Early Learning Division maintains grantee instructional memos, otherwise known as GIMS and otherwise known as policies and procedures. Our GIMS provide to our delegate agencies LACOE's minimum expectations regarding federal requirements, as well as practices that result in quality services. As you can see, the Mobile Services GIM is inclusive of all service area GIMs, as well as the ERC GIM. And now I'd like to invite Debbie Anderson to speak about our community outreach efforts as they pertain to mobile services. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Shirley. I am so excited to share with you how the mobile units can enhance your community outreach and public awareness efforts. So let's go right to the next slide. I would like to begin by sharing what we refer to as our community outreach guiding principles, the 4 C's. This really applies to community outreach in general. They inform our community outreach strategies, referral partnerships, and procedures. Let's begin with consistency. Regardless of who in the organization speaks about the program, the message should be the same. Some may have more details, but the core message should be the same. When an organization presents itself to the public should know who they are by their consistent branding, materials, logos, and even its process for receiving referrals and enrollments. Let's look at collaboration. We cannot get the word out about this amazing program alone. We need collaborators. And that starts first with the other teams in your organization. If you are a division or a department in a larger organization like we are here at LACOE, we work closely with divisions across the entire organization to implement outreach strategies. Collaborating with community organizations to develop customized referral agreements is key. Inviting parents and delegate agencies, if you have any, to participate in outreach efforts. LACOE often invites our delegates to participate alongside us as co-exhibitors. And of course, creativity. Constantly reviewing the data can push you to think outside of the box. And of course, outside of the box is specific to your organization. The Hope Buses are the manifestations of many people's ideas and creativity. This past year in the pandemic, it forced us to find creative ways to reach families and raise the public's awareness of the importance of early education. And last, but certainly not least, customer service. First, be able to identify your customers internally and externally. Have a servant attitude and a willingness to correct and adjust, because our data consistently tells us that word of mouth ranks as one of the top 3 sources of referrals to our program. Next slide, please. So in a large program like LACOE, with a service area that spans across LA County and a small team of division staff responsible for development and implementation of outreach strategies, we are asked, how do you do it? Well, one way is to establish a philosophy that addresses community outreach. And that philosophy simply means that anyone in the organization should be able to share why Head Start is such an awesome program and be able to refer an interested parent to the appropriate person to get more detailed information. And if you really want to meet parents and tell them about all the wonderful benefits of the program, become an outreach all-star. So in our division, anyone can be an outreach all-star. But before staff can represent LACOE in a Head Start community outreach event, they are required to complete our fun and interactive training, the All-Stars training. The training is available to our delegate agencies as well. Some of the topics that we cover: consistent messaging, engaging with the public. Each participant has an opportunity to create an elevator pitch about why a person should sign up for the program. And then we have a friendly competition on table display and setup showcase. Next slide, please. There are many things I could share about each one of these areas, but in the interest of time, I will highlight a few. In the next section, I will briefly review marketing, getting the word out to our delegates and the community about our Hope buses. We will look at the different opportunities to outreach using the buses. Once an outreach opportunity or event is booked, how to prepare. And upon arrival at the event, some things to consider. And finally, follow up after the event and the return to the office. Next slide, please. Our Hope buses arrived during the pandemic, and we were already launching a campaign of hope to inspire staff and delegates. So the naming of the buses, Hope, which stands for Helping Families Gain Opportunities, preparing children through early learning was the most likely choice that was consistent with our efforts to inspire and encourage. We placed our information on our pre-K Kid and inclusive ECE websites. Next slide, please. So here are some samples of marketing materials. We have our brochure, which gives detailed information on Hope on Wheels and Hope the Bus, and provides images of the buses inside and outside. We also have a shorter version, an information sheet that's provided the what, the when, the why, and contact information. Next slide, please. So the buses are a mobile billboard in and of itself, with its bright colors, all the beautiful children, the LACOE logo, and the colors are in the Head Start and Early Learning brand colors. It includes our toll-free program referral number and our pre-K Kid website on the back. The flyer that you see was sent to LACOE delegates to encourage interest in using the buses for drive-through parades during the Safer at Home order. Next slide, please. So what are some of the ways we can use the buses for outreach? We've talked about drive-through and contactless events. We just saw a flyer about parades. And now you can see the images here of the bus being parked and stationary. The top image was taken at East LA Community College. The bus was parked not far from the entrance of a health fair that was taking place on campus, where our team was distributing outreach packets at a drive-through event during the pandemic. The bus can also be parked and stationary with an information table or booth where staff are available to engage with event participants. Next slide, please. This is the configuration that I find most exciting, the bus with 3 activity stations. So this is station 1, and it's our information station. Next slide, please. In station 1, we have staff available to engage with event attendees. There are brochures, books, displays, bookmarks with tips for parents, and then our QR code where interested parents can complete a form for referral to the nearest Head Start program. During the pandemic, when we were attending contactless drive-through events, we began using QR codes on flyers that were part of our packets. We're going to continue to use them in in-person events, and you will see that they are displayed at every station. Next slide, please. This is station 2, our make and take table. Always a big hit with event attendees. This will really attract people to your area. Usually the make and take is, the craft is usually bookmarks. The supplies are mostly stickers, there's no scissors, no glue, no markers. During the pandemic, the crafts were prepackaged and placed in our outreach packets. Next slide, please. If you attended part 1 of this webinar, you may recall that we had a 360-degree virtual tour of inside the buses. And you could see the different ways that the bus could be used inside. And finally, station 3, you have 2 configurations inside the bus, depending on what you want to accomplish. The top image could serve as an activity or reading corner, and below, the bus can also be a place for parent meetings, to provide more information, to take individual referrals, and even begin the enrollment process. What I love most about the 3 stations is that they're all happening simultaneously. Next slide, please. So now you can see why preparation and planning for an outreach event using the buses is so important. Some key areas for planning: staffing an event. Consider the language needs of event attendees and the number of staff that will be needed to accommodate the different configurations with the buses, from parked stationary all the way up to the 3-station setup. Vehicle preparation, making sure that we put gas in the bus, safety checks, loading, event setup. One of the things that we learned very quickly was setup time with the Hope buses is very different from setup time without. So you must take in consideration the setup time established by event planners and then add vehicle preparation time. And this will directly impact the work hours for your bus driver. Deciding on materials to bring, again, language needs and the number of stations will drive this decision. Next slide, please. Well-planned and coordinated logistics and activities will ensure a more successful outreach results. I've listed a few that should take place during the event. First, make sure your team is following all public health requirements. The use of QR codes for digital referrals and Child Plus applications for contact referrals. If not this method, have some way of collecting information for future engagement and interested parents. If you plan to take pictures, you may consider posting notifications, but check with your legal department for direction. And finally, maintain adequate staffing during the event to ensure continuous engagement and the safety of attendees that are experiencing the bus and other activities in your booth. Next slide, please. And upon return to the office, have a procedure in place for timely follow-up on referrals for the event. Follow up on any potential partnerships from networking at the event. Complete the mobile bus paperwork as required by your internal procedures. As a manager, I'd like to hear from our all-stars. I'd like to hear their impressions of an event. And we do that through an event summary form. Sometimes we book events and they don't meet our expectations. Maybe the majority of the attendees turn out to be families whose children exceed the Head Start age eligibility. This gives the team an opportunity to communicate that information to me and helps me to weigh in on the feasibility of participating in the future. Next slide, please. And finally, I want to share a few of events where LACOE or our delegates use the buses. The Univision drive-through health fair at East LA College. Special Needs Network annual Christmas care exchange. El Monte School District vision and hearing screenings, where I understand it organically turned into an outreach event as well, and they were able to enroll families that day. NOWAP La Mirada, recruitment drive around through their service area. And ABC Unified School District and Foundation for Early Learning both hosted grab and go food events for families. And so I thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to Shirley, who will talk more about staying safe.
Our mobile units are practicing and modeling safe practices. Our drivers are visiting our service area neighborhoods and safely waving to remind families that we are still in operation and families are welcome to call us to enroll. With the current changes to COVID protocols, we have expanded mobile services throughout LA County and continue our safety practices and protocols. This slide is duplicated from teacher trainings that were initiated during distance and virtual learning. Until further notice and guidance from the LA County Health Department, we will continue to exercise safety precautions and practices. Next slide, please. This is the agenda for this portion of the presentation. We will begin with number 5, screenings, and step by step go up the ladder. Follow up, teaching and learning, and other activities to evaluation and individual plans. The education and disability services and mobile gym units were all referenced for this portion of the presentation. And now Maureen will begin our service discussion. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Shirley. Firstly, I'd like to talk about some of the health screenings that are required under the Head Start performance standards and which can be performed on the mobile units. The mobile units are equipped for staff to perform the required vision and hearing screenings and growth assessments for both early Head Start and Head Start students. They are stocked with OAE and spot screeners for the early Head Start children and Lear symbol charts and audiometers for the Head Start children. This is useful, for instance, when the timelines for these screenings are running out. Staff may find a number of children spread over many sites who have still yet to be screened. Perhaps they were absent on the day of screening in their classrooms, or possibly they couldn't be conditioned to the screening, so they have still yet to be screened. And you can use the mobile unit to perform all of these rescreenings. Depending on the geographical span of your sites, using the mobile units with, say, a team of 2 trained staff could help you reach all of these students more readily. This method of picking up the stragglers not only increases your PIR numbers, but it may also help in having to train less staff in the skills of vision and hearing screening, and that also improves the skill in the few people that are trained. This then translates to a more accurate screening result. It may also help your budget in that you might not need to purchase as much screening equipment. I'd like now to show you a short video of me performing a hearing screening at a recent mobile event that we had at one of our school districts. I was able to support the agency in vision and hearing screenings for children with IEPs using the vision and hearing screening instruments. It was such a fun day screening these children. They were really interested in the instruments and how they worked, and that seemed to make them much more patient and amenable with the process. The video is rather quiet, so be sure your volume is turned all the way up. Thank you.
We do this properly and you hear the music, you're going to see all the bars light up. We'll look for that in a moment. So it's a little uncomfortable, but it doesn't hurt, okay? And turn it on. Music to play. Now we're going to play it in the other ear. Great, listening. Did you hear the tune? Yeah. Let's pop it in this ear now then. Good job.
Thank you. The availability of this equipment on a mobile unit might also help home visitors screen their home-based children all at one time and in a controlled atmosphere. Home visitors might want to team up so that they can help each other perform these screenings because they're more difficult to do alone. Or your assembled vision and hearing screening team might perform the screenings for them. And lastly, the mobile unit might also be used in tandem with a community provider. For instance, oral screenings might be performed on the mobile unit by a community dental partner, while the program staff support the activity and document the results. Shirley, what kinds of screenings can educational staff do on the mobile unit?
Thanks, Maureen. All delegate agencies under LACOE use the ASQ3 and the ASQ SE2 for 45-day developmental and behavioral screenings. Agencies will be able to reserve the mobile units to have groups of children and families complete the screeners. For example, the mobile unit may be reserved and parked in a center's parking lot for scheduled home-based parents to attend and complete their screener, or parked in front of a family child care provider's home to do the same. This is especially helpful when the teacher, home visitor, or provider may not have full command of the languages spoken by parents. So support staff with the language expertise may step in to translate in an effective manner. And as Maureen mentioned, delegate agencies may reserve the units when the timelines for these screenings are running out and arrange for screener days on campus. Parents may complete the screeners using hard copies such as ASQ forms, pencil, and clipboard, or on the laptop on the mobile unit. Once completed by the parent, the delegate agency staff may review, score, and discuss the results with the parent. The onboard computer also has Child Plus, LACOE's record-keeping system. This will afford staff to enter screening results and subsequent discussion information into Child Plus. And now, Maureen, how does LACOE address the follow-up services via the mobile unit?
Shirley talked a little about the computer aboard the mobile unit. This can be used to record in Child Plus in real time any of the health screenings that are performed aboard the mobile unit for a particular child. You can also develop a log of health screenings performed on a particular day or at a particular event. Referral documents can be created there and then, and parent resources downloaded. You won't have to remember to do all of these at a later date, and so there will be less lag time in follow-ups. If parents are present at the screenings, you can make time to explain the results and talk about what will happen next. They will also immediately receive the referral documents and any parent resources. I believe this approach may result in parents being more invested in the referral process and better able to advocate for their child. Shirley, what does follow-up look like from the education point of view?
Well, Mo, delegate agency staff, including mental health, education, and disability, may reserve the mobile units for staff to review and score screeners and hold confidential discussions about the results with parents, and if need be, set up a 60-day rescreen date as a result of at-risk score or a referral. We do ask delegate agencies to bring hard copies of documents such as ASQ screeners, intervention activity sheets, and local resources brochures, in-house referral forms, and extra writing implements. The mobile unit laptop has Wi-Fi, so staff may research resources and/or enter follow-up and referral data into Child Plus. And now, Maureen, talk to us about how teaching and learning and other activities are provided on the mobile units. Next slide, please.
So we talked a little bit about parents being involved in screenings aboard the mobile unit, but the bus can also be requisitioned to provide educational opportunities to parents, another performance standard requirement. We know that it's difficult to get parents to attend a mass screening because the location may not be convenient for all parents. But with the mobile bus, we can take the training to the parents at each site. The mobile unit has a TV on which parents can view health education video presentations, such as safety in the home, safe sleep, shaken baby, CPR, and first aid. The mobile unit is also kitted out with props that parents can use to practice such skills as administering a medication, using an asthma inhaler, or giving rectal diastat. If their baby's in the NICU, we can also provide education on and handling of a special doll to become familiar with such things as a trach or a G-tube if the infant may be discharged home with these. Education opportunities can be geared to an individual or to an entire group. And the topics can be broad, such as oral health, or they can be very narrow, such as how to use a nebulizer in the home. Shirley, what have you got for us?
A lot, Mo. Per our mobile services gym, delegate agencies may reserve the mobile units for the following educational purposes: early learning activities and demonstration, indoor and outdoor environments for center-based, home-based, and family childcare homes. Support home-based activities, including socializations, developmental and behavioral screenings by delegate agency staff, early Head Start transition planning meetings, other screenings provided by external community services such as regional centers, school districts, as needs are identified. We can also do referrals and follow-up on the mobile unit. Examples of other meetings that a DA may reserve the mobile unit for may include policy committee or site parent meetings, parent trainings, site staff trainings, especially for those who have enrolled children with early intervention or special education services who are interested in materials and strategies that address sensory needs, assistive technology, modifications and accommodations, and occupational therapy needs in general education birth to 5 settings. District regional centers may have collaborative meetings on the mobile services. We can have open house, we can have community fairs, and other recruitment activity opportunities. As you can see, many of LACOE's education, health, mental health, disabilities, family community engagement all can be conducted on the mobile services units. Next slide, please. In preparation for us taking the mobile units on the road, the team consisting of ECE specialist, mental health expert, a board-certified behavior analysis, a nurse, and occupational therapist selected birth to 5 demo materials to be used during the parent education sessions. A delegate agency may also reserve the mobile units to demonstrate to a newly contracted family child care home provider some types of materials and equipment that are in classrooms and family child care homes under LACOE. Here are some examples of our demo materials that we have in storage with a multitude of other resources that the delegate agencies have an option to request for their event. You can see the DK Braille shapes, a book called My First 1,000 Words, the Fisher-Price Popper, which was recommended by our colleagues over at Early Start, who teach DHH and VI children, Easy Tech Communication Kit, Baby Signs, Clickety-Clack, Tactile Search and Match Game. And on the next slide, Maureen will share with us the health, nutrition, and dental materials and resources that we have on board the mobile units. Next slide, please.
This slide shows some of the health items we have on board the mobile units. As mentioned earlier, we have a LEA symbol chart and an audiometer on board, as well as OAE and spot screeners to allow vision and hearing screenings to be performed. You can also see infant scales and a measuring mat, and there's a stadiometer and some regular weighing scales for older children. So not only can you perform a growth assessment on the unit, but you can also teach parents how to do one at home. You see a picture of food models so that parents can see appropriate portions for infants and toddlers. And we have many books and posters and wall measuring charts and other giveaways that parents and children can take home. And that fuzzy dragon up in the corner, it's not really a toy. It's a fun way to show kids how to clean their teeth properly. It even spits if you want it to. Below that, you can see the Nikki dolls. They have some special medical devices implanted so that you can teach a parent or a caregiver how to provide care to a child with special health needs. And lastly, but by no means least, you will see a picture of a toolbox. We're not teaching parents home repair skills. This box is full of medication administration samples, such as oral medication syringes, metered dose inhalers, and EpiPens. We can use these to demonstrate drawing up and administering medications properly. Parents can then provide return demonstrations and begin to feel confident in their skills, and children will receive their medications safely at home and in the classroom. This picture is by no means the full extent of the health materials that can be used on board the mobile unit. It's just all we could fit on the slide. We have a lot more items in storage that we can place on the mobile unit depending upon the use of the unit for that day. Now back to Shirley. Next slide.
Thank you, Maureen. Delegate agencies may reserve the mobile units to support families that may not have access to transportation, the internet, or a computer. For example, some children in the referral process may need to be evaluated by the school district or regional center specialist to determine a need for special services, or to hold in-person or virtual meetings with parents to discuss the needs of individual children and plan next steps in a confidential and convenient environment. For us, during the stay-at-home restrictions, many of our IEPs were developed under the heading of deferred eligibility. That means that with the stay-at-home restrictions being lifted, we are anticipating that our school districts will be holding in-person evaluations to make a determination of eligibility under the 13 IDEA categories. This brief video demonstrates a virtual speech and language evaluation.
Play?
Yeah.
A play. Play.
Wait. Say it loud.
Play.
Okay, take your hands away from your mouth and say it again.
Play.
Thank you. And now Maureen will share LACOE's approach to individualized planning mobile unit style. Next slide, please.
If licensed health staff want to discuss individualized healthcare plans with parents, they can requisition the mobile unit to do this. As well as discussing the individualized health plan, staff can also provide health education opportunities at the same time if needed. For instance, if in discussion with a parent to develop a classroom and emergency health plan for a child with asthma, it's found that the parent doesn't really understand the difference between a maintenance medication and a rescue medication, the nurse can provide clarification and a skills check using the medication box. The parent can also be provided with some simple asthma education handouts or watch a video on asthma. Perhaps it may also be good use of time for health staff to develop all their individualized healthcare plans in 1 or 2 weeks by traveling from site to site and meeting parents on the mobile units. The staff can also obtain all of the medications at one time and they can be processed all at once. And don't forget, the Child Plus will be updated with the laptop and documents provided at these appointments on the mobile unit. Let's find out from Shirley how she might envision using the mobile unit for individualization.
Thanks, Maureen. As we have shared throughout this presentation, the mobile units may be reserved to support a parent's involvement or role in an IEP, an IFSP, the development of an individualized health plan, or 504 meeting while on board. The mobile units may be reserved by delegate agencies to be parked at a regional center, a school district site, an early Head Start site, a Head Start center, socialization site, or family child care home to support the parent who may not have the resources to attend otherwise. This also makes it easier for instructional staff and providers to participate. This models our "we come to you" vision by enabling the parent to meet in a safe, convenient, and confidential space, or by joining by use of technology on the mobile unit. The mobile units also have printers so that documents can be printed, signed, and scanned, and be completed with e-signatures. And now back to Dr. Williams.
Well, that concludes our presentation, an innovative approach to mobile services for young children. Thank you for your participation, and we hope you consider mobile services as a viable strategy to reach families. If you want more information about our program, do not hesitate to contact me. My information is in the slide above. Thank you. Stay safe and goodbye.